Hello, and welcome back to the Calm and Connected podcast. I'm your host, Janine Halloran, and it has been a long time since I have done a solo episode. I took some time off this summer and shared some really fun interviews that I did with some of my colleagues, including Jennifer Cohen Harper and Lynn Kenny. And so I hope you enjoyed those interviews this summer, and now I'm back. I'll continue to do interviews throughout the year, but I'm also going to be interspersing in my solo podcast episodes as well. So I'm excited to start that. And one of the things I was thinking about was what can I do to really support educators, counselors, families, parents as their kids are going back to school? What do I think I want to share about in those solo podcast episodes? So I was inspired to do a mini series on coping skills for adults for my solo episodes, and I thought it would be a great timing to begin at the beginning of the school year. It's such a stressful time. It's overwhelming, and it's been such an intensely overwhelming time just in the world and in the world of education and in the world of raising children, that I thought it made sense for us to focus on those coping skills for adults. So part of that was inspired by the fact that whenever I do presentations, one of the things I tend to end with is self-care and coping skills for the adults. So we, as counselors, therapists, teachers, educators, helping professionals, we spend a lot of time focusing on helping our kids or the kids that we work with learn coping skills. And one of the things that I've figured out as I've learned and done this work for a while is that one of the best ways to do this is by modeling healthy coping skills. And that can really make a difference when we are teaching our children and our students and our clients how to use coping skills. But sometimes we, as the adults, myself included, can struggle with this. So I really wanted to help you in a way find your own strategies, your ways of that you can rest and recharge, you can re-energize yourself. And so let's get started. So I'm gonna go through each of the styles of coping, but one of the first things I'm gonna start with is deep breathing, because I always start with deep breathing. So today's episode is focused on deep breathing strategies that adults can use, but they also work for kids as well. So the reason why deep breathing is so important is because it is a way that we can tell our bodies to get out of fight, flight, or freeze mode and go back down to rest and digest mode. It is not immediate, it is not instantaneous, but it is one of those things that can help our body switch out of it. Because when we're in fight, flight, or freeze, our breathing is shallow. Our muscles tense up, our digestion slows down, and our breathing gets shallow. So to help us get out of that fight, flight, or freeze, one thing that we can do is go back down to rest and digest by helping our body do some deep breathing. So that's why I like to start with it. So I wanted to share a couple of techniques that I like using for deep breathing that are super simple and work for adults as well as kids too, obviously, but it can absolutely work for adults. So if you've ever seen me present, so like that's what I talk about self-care at the end of the presentation. But the first thing I always start with at the beginning of a presentation is taking deep breaths. So the deep breathing exercise I do is simple. The prompt is to put one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and take a few deep breaths at your own pace. So, and then close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Sometimes people feel really comfortable to close their eyes. Other times people don't feel like closing their eyes. It's okay. I like to put my hand on my stomach, and I give people that instruction because it helps you do that deeper belly breathing as opposed to doing breathing from your chest. So I like the breathing from your belly to help get those really deep breaths in and out, and that will help your body get out of that fight, flight, or freeze back to rest and digest. So why do I start with deep breathing at the beginning of a presentation? I will tell you, having done it a lot, and actually a couple of times I didn't do it at the beginning, and I noticed a difference in the room. So it helps everybody focus and come together in that moment to settle down. The energy in the room really does settle down for just after just doing 1 minute of deep breathing. It's actually quite incredible. and quite powerful to see. It just shifts the energy in the room to a more calm place, and you can feel the change happen. And I notice the difference between when I do it and when I don't. Because when I first started doing speaking, I didn't include the deep breath at the beginning, and it made a huge difference to include it. It just got everybody like focused on the same moment. Um, I also do it because it shows how quickly you can shift the energy in a room. So it's a really quick strategy you can use in the morning with your students as they're walking as they've settled into class and they're coming down and they're sitting down in their desks. Before you could begin work, you can actually do a deep breathing exercise that takes less than a minute and can help them regroup and focus on what they need to do. It's also something that you can use in group. You know, when you have got a lot of kids coming in from a lot of different places and they're trying to sit down and settle in, and you need to get all of them focused, try doing a deep breathing exercise to get them all focused. And then finally, I also do this deep breathing exercise at the beginning of presentations for myself because it helps me get focused and in the moment and in a calmer state of mind. I find that it helps me be ready to go even in remote presentations. I like to do this deep breathing exercise. So absolutely just really simple. One hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Take a few deep breaths at your own pace. That's the other thing that I like about it is that it's, you know, sometimes for me, like breathing with numbers doesn't always work, or breathing with counts doesn't always work just because I don't like the way it feels for me. But it does work. So it's helpful to make sure that you try kind of two, like different ways to take deep breaths to see what works best for you. Another deep breathing strategy that I think is super helpful is actually involving numbers. So I think it is super helpful, and I have talked with my colleague and friend Karen Locke-Culp about this strategy. I actually posted about Karen a few weeks ago on my Instagram and shared how our friendship started after she read an article I wrote, and then I was on her podcast, and I've been on it a few times. She's been on mine. And I remember she and I were talking, and she talks about 4-7-8 breathing being the way that she falls asleep. It helps her fall asleep at night. So 4-7-8 breathing, you breathe in for 4 counts, you hold for 7 counts, and you breathe out for 8 counts. Now, this is a strategy because of the shorter breath in and longer breath out. It's supposed to help you get out of fight, flight, or freeze and back down to rest and digest in quicker. And it is a nice way to try and fall asleep. If you've not done it before, I would say just try maybe 4 breaths at one sitting for a deep breathing strategy, just because it can feel a little bit weird initially, but see how that works for you and see if that is something that you find helpful. Like I said, it doesn't feel like great to me, but that's because I have a little touch of asthma and my lungs just don't like that feeling. But it works really well for my friend Karen Locke-Culp. And that's a way that a lot of people use to get out of panic attacks and to fall asleep as well. There's actually a really cute video for kids on 4-7-8 breathing that I'll link to in the show notes for you. So if you want to take a look at that and you might find it helpful. And as I was prepping for this and thinking about breathing, I realized, you know, I've seen breathing recently actually on TV using deep breathing strategies. So recently we got a dog, and I've been watching a lot of Caesar Milan, like all the shows. I just discovered all of this because it's like a different world. I never grew up with a dog, so I'm just getting used to like what it means to be the leader of pack and things like that. So one of the things I noticed pretty early on when I was started watching his show is that he really checks his energy. He checks his breath when he's working with animals, especially animals that are having a challenge. And so I actually recognized when I was actually watching a show the other day, and he said something like, always check your energy. And then he did a big deep exhale to get him into that calm and confident leader role. And so I just find it interesting. Like, it is something that can be so helpful in regular everyday life. And I'm glad that I was able to see that and share that with you. And, I enjoy those shows as well. But it's great to see that, people are noticing their breathing makes an impact on their energy and their body and how that impacts other creatures and other people in their lives. So I'd love to hear from you. I shared a couple of my ideas for taking deep breaths, but what are yours? So if you want to just DM me on Instagram at Coping Skills for Kids, or email me at calm@JanineHalloran.com and share your ideas with me. So to help us as we explore our coping skills through the series, I've created a free printable that you can download, and that's going to be a link to that is going to be in the show notes. So you can help start identifying your own ways that you like to reset and recharge. If you like this podcast, please feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues, or giving a rating and review wherever you listen. And as always, don't forget about yourself. Take a few minutes, have a little fun, and have an awesome day.